Okay. Now the sound should be also on the stream. So please let us know in the channel. Best will be Discord if you can hear us.
Yeah, I can hear you, and I just I opened the live stream.
Okay,
so
okay.
I could hear you talk. So at least people can hear you.
Yeah, and hopefully also you.
And hopefully also me. I think Dankt wanted to join in. If there's going to be some questions about the PinePhone or something else.
Yeah, well, that should be fine.
Is Matthew around? No.
Probably
He
not.
may be doing something.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Hello.
All right. Oh, hello, Dankt. By the way, if I got some really severe storms in the weather, so if I drop out, I had the internet drop out like twice today already. So if I drop out, I may be gone for like a minute or two. I'll rejoin soon after.
Okay.
That sucks. I had a storm where like my mouse just disconnected and then it reconnected on its own.
Nice.
All right. Okay, so when you're ready, toss in the links for the stream. Actually, just give me 30 seconds. I'll get myself a glass of water before we start.
Yeah, okay. The links are here.
And I'm back.
Okay.
Good. So whenever you're ready, I can run the introduction. Welcome everyone. And oh yeah, do we have? I assume that there's already some questions in chat. Yeah, there are some questions. I can see. Let me see.
Also, maybe we need to publish the links on the Twitter and Mastodon.
To what? To the YouTube and to the PeerTube streams. You mean?
Yeah. The Twitter and all the platforms.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay.
I posted.
Do you want to? Oh, go.
No. Do you want to do it, or do you want me to toss them up on Twitter?
If you can, that will be nice.
Okay, I'll do it on Twitter. What's the PeerTube link? If you could maybe into off topic or.
It's already in the Q&A room at the bottom.
Oh, I see it. All right. Got it. All right.
I also marked good questions with green square emoji. So
I saw them. I'll go back and read them in just 1 second.
Yeah, okay.
Because I haven't looked at them yet. So if you want to on the live Q&A, here's a PeerTube and tube. Here are PeerTube and YouTube links. There, let me copy. Okay, tweeted. And posted on. Let's go toot. Okay, right. Let me take a quick look in the Q&A chat. Right. Right. Do you want to take the first question? Where is that person? Is Danny, I think, is asking for a wireless mic. Do you want to take that one?
Sure.
Programmer you're interested in.
Okay, so the question is, hi, what...
No. Let's maybe we should start first. So let's go quiet for
okay, sorry.
Okay, guys. So we'll go quiet for maybe like 3 seconds, and then I'll just welcome everybody because we're obviously gonna have this video up on YouTube later. So
Yeah.
All right, let's be quiet for like 2 seconds. Go. Oh yeah, you should. Did you notify people in the chat, Marek?
On Discord.
Yeah, on Discord or whatever. Starting.
No. Might be
Okay.
good.
Let's just ping at here because people get upset if you.
Oh, only here.
Everyone.
Yeah. So I will change the.
But a really terrible cough today.
Oh. Okay, I hope it pinged the here people.
It did.
Hopefully. Oh, okay, nice.
Good. Okay.
Okay.
Hello and welcome everyone to the third Q&A. This is your chance to ask us questions live in the chat and have them answered. Now, when you ask your questions, it would be ideal if you pinged us while asking the questions because the chat is going to turn into a block of text in no time, and it's going to be very difficult for us to pick out individual questions. So we are recording this, we're streaming this, and once done, these videos will be available for you to watch in the future on YouTube and on PeerTube, and likely also on Odyssey. So let's go. Let's get the first question. Marek, so you wanted to take the first one?
Yes. Okay, so the question is from Dan3A. Hi, will a wireless microphone similar to the mod mic wireless be possible to make? Well, I think if the PineBuds will be successful, maybe someday it will be possible to make a wireless Bluetooth microphone, but well, the PineBuds will be good test of making anything in relation of the Bluetooth audio stuff, and we will see how it will goes.
Yeah, and also like I suppose a question which I have is, in a sense, like I don't know what the mod mic is. I mean, maybe it's a very cool device. I haven't looked it up. I just saw this question. Is it like a particular type of microphone?
As far as I remember, it's a small microphone which you can attach to the shirt or stuff like that. But okay. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, I see. So I suppose the question which pops into my head is like, why? Like, if this already exists, and then there's probably, I mean, you know, making something like a microphone seems like a very particular thing. I suppose there may be very good reason for it. I personally just don't really understand why we would go into making a particular microphone. All right, I'll take the second question.
Okay.
I'm a student, Linux LoRa programmer, and very interested in the PineNote. Is it now stable enough for me, an intermediate Linux level programmer, and how is it possible to purchase it? I mean, it's stable enough. I suppose that's a kind of broad question. An intermediate Linux level programmer, I don't know that either. I mean, I'd say that it is in early stages of development in terms of like the kernel and the kernel work, and Counterpillow and PG Wipeout have been doing a lot of work on it, and it appears that a lot of progress has been made, especially with the new, what are they called, waveforms, which make it possible to write on the tablet and have the text appear relatively like quickly after you make an input with the pen and stuff like that. But so that is kind of, you know, taking shape. But then for this to be a solid experience, there is a whole level of like, making a user interface which would be suitable for black and white e-ink tablet. And I think that, I know that KDE has, they have got some stuff going internally with respect to that. And I know that people have shown the traditional desktops, configured to work with an e-ink tablet, but I think it's a way off. So if you're a student, a Linux lover, and a programmer, and very much interested in the PineNote, then I think the answer is, well, I think it's getting there. I don't quite know if it's there. Also, since we have Danked, one of the developers, with us in the chat, I know that one of the hindrances of actually getting out the PineNote into people into people's hands, like people who could work on the UI and stuff. I know that one of the problems was that it was actually difficult to boot OS images without using UART. Danked, do you know what the status of that is currently? Because I do not.
Well, I would say that it's the same as like months ago. I think that there's a U-boot, there's a mainline U-boot image that you can try, but I have not tried it yet because I don't want to break it now.
Right. So, but it still requires, like, booting an image still requires an active input from the person booting, right? I mean, booting the device or developing on the device. Like, you still need to connect via UART, or has that changed? Because I haven't been following this in particular.
I have seen that someone tried to hack the default U-boot image to like boot to to Linux or something, and that was really cool.
Also, I think the issue is that that the U-boot which we currently use is the U-boot from the vendor, from BSP package, or it's a weird mix of the mainline U-boot and the vendor ARM secured firmware, or ARM trusted firmware, yes. And we had information that Rockchip will release the ARM trusted firmware and all the stuff around soon, but it's still not there. So it's a hacky solution to get mainline U-boot working on the RK636 3566. Yes. So this is also the issue. But I think eventually we will get there, and I think the progress on the PineNote generally was really fast because the drivers is improving every day. I seen a few days ago playing video on the mainline display driver for PineNote, and it worked amazingly. So I think it's moving quite fast, but it still needs some work.
Yeah, and yeah, I suppose, and then we all have to keep in mind that the PineNote is a bit of a particular type of Linux device, right? So it's not like bringing up a device with an LCD screen. There's a number of other complexities and problems which are still there. It's a pity that, I don't know if Counterpillow is in the chat. Maybe he would want to join or comment on it, or he could maybe comment on it in the chat and tell people how far along everything related to the panel is. But obviously a lot has been accomplished in a very short time. Right, shall we move on? Can I take the one on the NAS? Then I'll answer that, and then you can have the next one. Marek, is that all right?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Right. So how feasible is it to build a NAS with Pine64 products? I'll say that I've been running a NAS on a ROC Pro 64 for a very long time now, years. I haven't even updated the image. I think it's running Debian from God knows when, and yeah, has served me really well. It's I use it for backing up work data and everything, and no issues. So I'd say yes. It's very much if you're looking for a small home NAS, then the RockPro64 and more recently the QuartzPro64 with a SATA what is it called, PCIe adapter. I think those are pretty cool options.
Yeah, and also it's good to know that also the Pine64 cluster is basically just RockPros with the SSD connected via PCI Express, and it's been working without any issues for a year non-stop, and it worked just fine. So I think RockPro64 is just ideal for the home NAS.
Agreed.
Okay, we can move the next question from Pacost. So, what is the state of replacement parts for the PinePhone Pro? When can availability be expected? This was already asked on Twitter, and the replacement parts are already ready, but there is issue that there are not issue, but there was not enough of time to bring up the stuff on the PineStore, so it should be really soon available on the PineStore to purchase.
Yep. Spaghetti is asking, I've heard the newest PinePower is grounded, however the store says otherwise. Is the store outdated or is the revision not live yet? To my knowledge, all the new batches, starting with either this or the past one, have the grounding. So if that's not included in the global Pine store, then that's just an oversight. And all the PinePowers, the desktop PinePowers, have grounding on USB.
Okay.
Should I read the next one from Lutik?
There also one more question from Pacost, so I will read that. PineDio LoRa module. As far as I know, that's the same situation as PinePhone Pro replacement parts. It should be available soon for purchase. On the PineStore, I already received the new PineDio LoRa module, but the gateway. So I think that should be pretty soon released on the PineStore.
Right. Let's see. What do we have next? I just got my PinePhone on Verizon Network today. It took the rep to put in a fake IMEI number since PinePhones don't come up supported, although the hardware is compatible. Question is, will PinePhone as it matures more work with the carriers to become accepted or approved for easier adoption? This is quite complex, especially in the United States, and this person is clearly in the States. I need to weigh kind of my words and what I say. As carriers in the United States are moving to 5G and dropping 3G, I think dropping of 3G has already occurred in the United States. But I don't live in the States, so I don't know that. Each carrier adopts a position that if you want your product on their network, then you need to approach them, and they need to verify that it works well on their network, right? So this is the formal explanation. Depending on which network you approach, this quality assurance, quote end quote, on their network is a 6-figure sum usually. And mind you, this has nothing to do with the regulation in the United States. This is just something that the phone carriers are taking advantage of right now. So what I can say with a high degree of certainty is that for sure the PineStore will not be paying individual carriers in the United States, these said amounts for having them approved on these networks. I mean, you must understand that this is quite a complex situation, and I'll leave it at that, right? But in terms of cooperation with U.S. networks, I mean, I don't think it is something that is feasible at this time. How long? I'll just take the next one because somebody is asking how long do PinePhone Pro orders take normally for the EU? I ordered mine around 29th of the 6th. Oh, ISMP's ID Craft is asking about an order he placed in the global store, not in the EU store. I mean, I suppose the batches have already shipped. Marek, do you know? I haven't been following the global store shipping these past months.
Good question. I'm not sure too, but I think some batch was already sent. I think so, but I'm really not sure.
Yeah, ID Crafter. Sorry. I suggest you reach out to support this, and you're welcome to CC me and Marek about this. I don't know exactly because, as I said, I haven't been following the shipping schedule of the global store because I've been dealing with the EU store. But I too think I've spotted already a batch shipping since then last month. So I don't know why you haven't gotten it, especially if it's using DHL. Then you should just be notified from DHL by DHL, and depending on your geographic location. Oh well, he's EU. It should be 5 to 7 days on average.
Yeah. Or maybe FedEx should contact you. It's sometime from the last time the shipments are going through FedEx, as far as I know.
Okay, I see. Right. Do you wanna take the question from the blind Earthician?
Yes. So the question is there an estimated shipping date for the RISC-V board? I think he means Star64. Well, the Star64 is still in early stages, so I think it's very, very hard to estimate when the boards will be ready and shipped to people. So that's hard because it's still in early stages, and we will see.
Yeah, so with some luck, there should be prototypes at the end of this month or early September. They're waiting for literally 1 or 2 chips, at which point we will be looking at a select number of people to ship these boards to, and then depending on how the initial assessment goes of these boards by developers, we'll know more about what's a reasonable plan having these boards available. Stenson is asking, when can we expect SBCs to come to Pine64 EU? The answer is not anytime soon. I don't necessarily have a roadmap for that. I'm not this year. If you're thinking that there will be single board computers in the European store, then that's I've said it a few times and I'll say it again. It's just not going to happen this year. If somebody is keen on picking up a very large number of boards of the QuartzPro64 or ROC64 or ROC-Pro64, I mean. Then reach out to me and maybe we can work something out. But this is more for business. Individual boards is something that I'm planning on having right now. Okay. Right. I'll take another 2.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Sure.
Has there been any thought on making a more powerful PinePower with multiple USB-C PD outputs of 46 watts or more? Could charge multiple laptops. No, there haven't. So this is an easy question. Obviously, the PinePower has been a rather successful device. So, I'm not saying no to it, but I think that between the portable PinePower and between the desktop power, we're pretty good right now. And I'm gonna take the question from ID Crafter again. When will the fingerprint case have drivers? I think that's a question for developers. I'm trying to remember the developer who worked on it initially. Marek, do you remember his name?
That's good. Oh, very good question. He had interesting name, but let me check. Maybe I will find it. Let me check. Zachary.
Yeah. So I would have to check with Zachary and and get back to you. I don't know what the status of the fingerprint case are. I mean, he showed off it working with the fingerprint reader quite some time ago. So I don't know if it's a question of drivers at this point or if it's a question of implementation. Danked, you wanted to join. I don't know if you looked at the fingerprint reader case at all. Do you know whether that's a question of drivers or implementation in individual OSs, or is that something to do with how the UIs handle it? Do you know anything about it?
I don't know anything about the fingerprint scanner. But for the fingerprint thing, like it needs to be implemented in the UI, like the lock screen.
Right. Okay.
And also, yes, I think the issue now is the drivers in terms of kernel. Yes, it's simple ISQC device, so you can communicate with it from user space, but I will remember that it could be implemented within some Linux API, but I don't remember much. So that's the first thing. And yeah, the user space desktop environment for the PinePhone needs to support this. So both drivers and user space implementation is missing at the moment.
Are you happy with me taking the next 2, Marek?
Yeah, sure.
How is manufacturing looking for the next few months? Asks Brian. I think manufacturing hasn't necessarily been affected so far in China. It's mostly the logistics that have that seem wonky. Obviously, if something was to go really, poorly in China, then this would affect production as well. But right now, there's no production problems. There's just problems with getting things shipped. Basically, for those who don't know, locally, people are asked to stay at home, shelter in place, and then there's there's lockdowns of entire city or parts of like that. So obviously that affects production and not production, but logistics and moving things from Shenzhen to Hong Kong. Chris John asks, why is Pine64 so slow at updating devices? And then I look down and he's asking it, upgrading the hardware. I'm not quite sure what he is referring to. I suppose I don't know if he's like comparing it up against mainstream devices, at which the point that the answer is that, you know, we are sort of limited to the SoCs and the manufacturers of SoCs that we have a relationship with, and that it takes a long time to bring up something on a particular SoC, and then obviously the whole thing with mainline on ARM, and you know there are a number of things which make it, in a sense, almost pointless, right? To just, you know, pop in a new chip into randomly every year or every other year. We are still working on getting things done on the current version, but also, like, ultimately there's also a question of that we are not Samsung or Apple, right? This is a completely different scale. I'm not comparing it to mainstream devices, but I'm referring about upgrading old devices from A64 to the RK3566. Yeah, okay, good that you clarified. Yeah, so well, the answer is because people are still working on the A64. There hasn't been a firm decision as to, you know, what the next PinePhone iteration is going to be. It very well may be the RK3566 and maybe something else completely. I mean, I genuinely do not know. But people are still making progress on the current hardware. And frankly speaking, it takes a lot of money to respin you know, a production for basically a new device. I'll also say that, you know, the RK66, as we talked earlier about the PineNote, it's making very good progress, but it has some way to go, especially compared to the A64, which is, you know, very well supported right now. Right.
Also, Spikerguy replied that currently we don't have fingerprint login support for the mobile UI, while the fingerprint driver was not working on cause there was not really UI support. So basically this is the response from the Manjaro developer about the fingerprint case state.
Right, yeah. Have we ran to a point? Let me go back, because I thought there was other questions which were not...
okay.
Which were not answered. So a few questions about release dates. When do you guys expect you will release the PineBuds? Also, I'm curious to know when the new shorter tip for the PineCil will be in stock. I know the V2 ships with the shorter tip, but what about the gross and fine kits? When will they make a move over? Yeah. So about the PineBuds, we are hoping to have a fully functional PineBuds prototype or a set of them either late this month or early September, and we are so we have contacted basically or contracted people who are looking at the SDK as well, and building an alternative firmware and kind of taking and going through the steps of how to make a firmware, making it easier for whoever wants to develop for the PineBuds in the future. So how long this is going to take, I cannot tell you because I simply do not know. But the idea at this point is that it may take, anywhere between anywhere from September to December until we see an initial release, probably in limited quantity, of PineBuds. You skipped my question. Somebody's asking, I skipped their question. Oh yes, I was looking at the question and then I got distracted by a ping, so apologies for that. Can PineStore Global and EU communicate more with transparency on info product? Example, PinePower with 3 prongs grounded in shop, but no info if it's the 2nd gen or not. Yes, that should be updated. I mean, again, to my knowledge, all PinePowers currently, PinePower desktops just there in the shop should have grounding. Oh, that's a long question, mate. If you had a PineCil, where PineCil owners can share pics, specs. Yeah, so I mean, the other things related to your question, charger for PineCil wiki are not compatible. That, yeah, right. Yes, I'll point out that documentation on the wiki is something that if you wish, you can edit yourself. So you can add content to the wiki, and if you want to have an additional channel or sub channel on Discord for whatever reason, then talk to the admins or the mods, have them discuss this.
I can already reply to this question. Well, generally we are not creating any new channels because not everybody also is on Discord. There is many people on Matrix, Telegram, IRC, and bridging all the channels together is quite complicated. Even though we have like 8-10 channels which we are bridging right now, and sometimes it does not work. Sometimes the metrics have issues and the bots are delayed or this kind of stuff. So we don't plan to add any new channels. But I think for this purpose, you can add the supported chargers you verified on the wiki, or make a forum post or forum topic where you can post this stuff. So I think those 2 places, wiki and forum, are better place for this kind of stuff. Also about the PineCil V2, some chargers doesn't work. The issue is sometimes in software. So with the firmware updates, this can change. It's not always the issue of the hardware like PineCil. It's not the issue of PineCil, but some software implementation. So things can change with the software updates.
Somebody is asking whether there are any plans, ideas, something like Google Glass, Focals by North. I don't know about Focals by North, but I assume it's a similar thing to Google Glass. Like the answer is no. I don't think we discuss all sorts of things, and this has really not come up as a discussion point. I think we may have talked about Google Glass at some point back in the day, but I don't necessarily think that there's numerous things here. I mean, for one, Google Glass, I mean, is it still alive? Does it really do something? Is there really a broader group of people who are interested in this sort of thing? I mean, who is it for? I see Glass as potentially interesting in a very particular scenario where you have a job which requires you to have, HUD, quote unquote, hovering in your peripheral vision. But I don't really see. I mean, you clearly people feel uncomfortable when you have something like that on your face walking around, having a camera pointed at them. So I don't see it, but the answer is no. There's no plans. We haven't really talked about it in any real capacity ever, I don't think. So we discussed a lot of different ideas, some of them more reasonable, some of them less reasonable, but Google Glass was really not something that was on the agenda ever, or a Google Glass-like device was never on the agenda. I don't think. Marek, have you ever been a part of a conversation where we discussed a Google Glass-like device? I don't think so.
No. And even if I would consider this idea, it will be very challenging to make something small with battery, and generally it's really hard task to make something like Google Glasses. I think even in this time, like when the chips are really small, but still it would be really challenging to make this kind of device.
Yeah, because it's probably also technically quite complex, right?
Yeah.
To make it and then making it open and all that, making it, there's probably would have to be some sort of development kit to start with.
Yeah.
So somebody's asking, are there any updates on the status of the devzone? What is Pine64 currently doing to support developers getting devices ported upstream? Yes. So again, devzone is something that we absolutely need to get cracking on with, and you're welcome to blame me for the situation that this hasn't really moved for half a year. The reason is that I have been busy with the EU store, and I initially thought that it's going to be less work in a sense. I underestimated the bureaucracy that I would be facing. But starting with this month, I have much more time, and literally yesterday I had a quick conversation with TL, and there are already some things which have been released on the dev zone as a part of disclosure of documentation and of cooperation around particular devices, current as well as future ones. So I still have very high hopes for devzone and for implementing a bounty system. This is something that the PineStore and TLM are very much behind. You have my pledge that this is something I will be working on and towards in the next 3 months. This is something which I hope to truly develop and bring it forward.
Also, in terms of the dev zone, there is also challenge in terms of software. Like currently, we have the dev zone is made by Martin Bram from Postmarket OS team, and we need to add new features and new stuff. So we need to find the time resources to add all this into the dev zone, and we need to manage it to have it all working correctly. So it's also the development issue that we need to make a fully functional dev zone software, or maybe use something else what is open source, but I'm not aware of any similar software which can be used for dev zone. So I think it will be needed to be made by community, and we will see how it will go, because as I said, without custom software, I think the dev zone will be not realistic. We need to make it by ourselves, I think.
You mind if I answer Christian? Apologies if I'm butchering your handle. What do you think about the idea that the community votes on what will be upgraded? I think it's a terrible idea because just because you vote on on something to be upgraded doesn't mean that we can do it. It does not mean that it is something that we find viable or feasible. I mean, it also depends on how granular you'd like this to be? Like, do you want to upgrade the cameras, or do you want to upgrade, a particular component or change something here or there, or do you want to, like, you have a choice of 3 devices, say, whatever, just for the sake of the particular device. Okay. Yeah. So you're saying that that you have that we give you a choice of, say, the PinePhone, the PineBook Pro, and the PineNote, and then you get to vote on it. It simply does not work like that internally, because we do have a roadmap, which consists of things that will definitely happen, and then there's a roadmap of things that may happen. And having, I've said this a few times, but the reason why we sometimes hold information back is not because we don't want to share it with people, or we don't want to share it with you. It's just we don't really know if it's going to pan out. So having you vote on 3 different options and then finding out that it's something which we cannot fulfill it's much worse than doing something which we know for a fact we can do, right? I don't think this a viable way forward with regards to community voting on what will be upgraded. I mean, we reached out to the community on numerous occasions, like as in like super broadly, like in the case of the keyboard we talked about. What do you want the layout to be? That sort of stuff. So research should be made first. Yeah. It's just it's right. It's I can see how you would like this, and I see how, in a very utopian sense, this is a great thing for an open community like ours. It's just the problem is that the business end that people don't see, it just doesn't work that way. Especially there are some stressful times when sometimes we're placed in a position where a vendor has a number of say keyboards or LCD panels or whatever, and it's a decision of either you take it or you leave it, right? And then there is a product for the next 6 to 9 months, or there isn't. It's not it's not that easy. So I don't think it is viable from a business stand. I also don't think that having people vote always antagonizes somebody who wants something else updated. So it's best for us to ask you for input in the things where we know for a fact that everybody, so there is a premise, like with the keyboard. The premise was, how do we all, what can we all agree on with regard to the keyboard layout? And that was the premise. It was clear that it's the keys have to be made for the keyboard, for the PinePhone keyboard, and then people contributed their idea. And then everybody sort of talked it out, and after whatever it was, 3 or 4 days, there a general consensus among the community was reached as to how to cram all the keys into that confined space. Yeah. So I think that works better than going out and saying, well, do you want the PinePhone updated, or do you want this or that updated? I really don't think that's a viable. Is there going to be a PineBook Pro with the QWERTZ keyboard? Nope. No, I don't think there's any plans for any other layouts than the standard and pretty standard ISO one. Okay, did we miss any questions, guys? Because if not, then in theory the keys could be switched around. Yes, but you have to be quite careful with the what are they called? Help me out. The hinges. Oh, yeah. No, not the membranes. The hinges. The hinges are quite. Are there plans to make? You're missing this. Yes, they are fragile. They're quite fragile. The hinges on the PineBook. I've tried to take off a key myself in the past to do some stuff, and I broke one of the hinges. That's yes, you can do it, but you probably should be careful. Are there plans to offer more colors for the PineCil? Not to my knowledge. Okay, let me see the last question. Are there any plans regarding future PineBook Pros and whether an upgrade replacement motherboard will be produced as an upgrade path for the current PineBook Pro owner? The answer is, are there any plans regarding future PineBook Pros? Yeah, I mean, obviously we're internally, talking about what we're gonna do in the future, but there's nothing regarding the PineBook Pro specifically. There is no such, it's not something that's gonna happen within 6 months. Whether a replacement motherboard will be produced as an upgrade path for current PineBook Pro owners, I don't know, but there's definitely things related to laptops that we are talking and exploring right now. But these things, again, as I was just answering one of the questions, things are things which may pan out or may not pan out, and they may pan out in a year or 18 months or in 2 years or not at all.
Also, in terms of if new PineBook Pro, or not PineBook Pro, but another new PineBook, it might have another form factor, like more connectors or this kind of stuff. So I don't think that you will be able to just pick up the new mainboard and switch it with the new mainboard, because the layout of connectors is different. So I've only if the new PineBook would have the same shell, I think this is possible. But even I'm not sure if PineBook and PineBook Pro are backwards compatible in terms of case or shell. I think it's not. So I don't think next PineBook will be the same form factor as current PineBook Pro.
All right. Branding with the PineBook, will it be the same mess as it is right now? I don't know what you mean by the question. Will there be a PinePhone Pro dock? Yes, there will be. There will be a PinePhone Pro dock. I don't know exactly what you mean dock, but there will be a what is it called? One of those breakout dongles with. I have the dock right in front of me. It has HDMI, 2 USB 3.0s, and a gigabit Ethernet. So one of those. Are there plans for more peripherals like... Sorry, I missed somebody else's question. Are there plans for more peripherals like Pine Stylus or phone VR set that can connect to the phone's pogo-pin? Pine Stylus. What do you think the person is asking for, Marek? Do you think they're asking for like a stylus for the PinePhone and PinePhone Pro?
Oh, touchscreen stylus.
Oh, okay. I don't know whether that is something. I mean, the short question is no. We haven't. We don't have currently plans for that. I'm not sure what the question is about exactly. What sort of stylus? So if you're thinking about like an EMR stylus or something, then obviously that's impossible. So I don't know what other stylus would be there. And phone VR set connect to the phone's pogo pin. I mean, I don't know how that would work. I don't know if it would work. I don't know how the I2C protocol could be used in the VR set sort of scenario. Maybe it could. Maybe I just don't know.
Maybe for some sensors, but I don't think it will be any useful for this kind of device.
Right. So the last reposter said like a touchscreen stylus? Like, do you mean like the ones to have for like old iPads with like a big black tip that would just make electrical contact? Then I'm sure you can still pick them up for cheap locally. Right, guys, we got some 5 minutes, and then we're going to be wrapping up because it'll be a full hour then. So, will there be a general audience QuartzPro64 SBC? I want to say yes, but it's not going to be anything like the dev boards that have gone out Counterpillow. It would definitely have to. I would imagine it would conform to to the Model A standard. But as excited as we are about 3588, we're also taking it one step at a time and seeing how it's going to pan out. Is there a plan to have RK3588 board for the PBP? So I suppose I'll Lorcan from Manjaro is asking that question. I mean, yeah, of course we're talking about, I'll rephrase your question because like having the RK3588 board for the PBP sounds like it may be like a replacement board. So I'll assume that you're asking, will there be a RK3588 PBP at some point? And I say, I mean, it's the most obvious candidate. The question is, there's still much to learn about this SoC. It's still early stages. I wouldn't necessarily just a replacement board. Furkan is saying, yeah, maybe. I mean, if it makes sense, yes, yeah. I can imagine this happening, but I mean, people are starting when. Yeah, so maybe at some point in the future. Right. Okay. Shall we slowly wrap this up, Marek? Is there anything else that you want to add?
I don't think so.
Did we miss something?
Maybe some questions, but I don't know if there is something important to answer.
Yeah, I don't think there is anything particular that we missed. I think we answered a bunch of questions. My throat is dry. So, one last question. All right, go on. Last question. You have 1 minute after that. By the way, after we're done here, those of you who still want to chat for some half an hour or so, feel free to join Casual Hangout 1 on Discord if you're not on Discord. When will be next game night? Good question. You know what? We really should host some community event of that sort to have a get-together, a community get-together. I don't know. I'll talk to Marek and come up with like a day where we can all do some fun with PineBook Pros or PinePhone Pros or some of. By the way, I don't know what it caused it, but I've actually been. So for those who don't know, the PineBook Pro is it genuinely has been my daily and only laptop for years now. And at some point, about half a year ago, there was an update. I would imagine that it was to either Panfrost or to Mesa or some combination of the two. And one of my favorite card games, which is called Sonic Roboblast to Kart, went from being barely playable or not playable at fairly low resolutions to being like perfectly playable at 720p and even quite playable at 1080p. So it's a really fun card game and something that everybody could get into. So we could totally a karting game night at some point. Right, and so we are. It's 9 o'clock locally. Thank you everyone for joining in on this Q&A. I hope we answered most, if not all, of your questions. Sorry if we missed some. Also, I now open my Discord after a month, and I see that a bunch of people have written PMs to me, and I apologize that I have not been responsive. I have just genuinely extremely. Accept my apologies. I will be slowly getting questions. And now, if you're on Discord, then feel free to join casual hangouts, and we can chat about the next 30 minutes before I'll be heading out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And see you in the next Q&A.
And good night, everyone.
Depending on your geographic location. Right, let's head out.
Oh, good day, whatever.
Okay, goodbye. Thanks for watching.